Good Holy Saturday morning. And this is the transition day, the quiet day. It's I think of it. After the drama, the sheer drama of Good Friday and the glory of Sunday, Easter Sunday, it's the quiet of Holy Saturday. Isn't that true though? There's a feeling of emptiness. It's the feeling of, in a way, that anyone who has suffered the death of someone knows there is not just the grief, you can all call that Good Friday, the pain of the loss, the dying, but then there is followed by the silence. Yes, the silence. And I think that's the experience of Holy Saturday. There is, liturgically speaking, there is the quiet of death. And in a sense, the form of quiet grieving, but yet with hope, because we know tomorrow's Easter Sunday, you see. And that faith in Easter Sunday is nurturing. It allows us to see the triumphs of Good Friday. It manifests it, reveals it. That what Easter Sunday does is celebrate the redemption of Good Friday. That's so helpful for me. And I think it's got to be for most people who believe in Christ, that there is in life hope, that life is not in vain, that their lives are not in vain, that time is not a descent into oblivion, that death isn't, in that profound sense, final. I don't know how so many of my friends have left the faith who had been at one time very, very religious and pious and faithful Catholics. I don't know what happened, what there was about it. Sometimes it's as practical as they went from kids to adults. Stress in marriage and also birth control and all the church and those kinds of things. I think we drove a lot of people away. I know I have a friend of mine, very dear friend. She was my student, Sarah. And I said to her once, what did we do to you? How did we drive you away? And I wasn't talking about the university. I was talking about the church. What did we do to you? How did we preach such a false gospel to you? Not in the preaching of the gospel, but in one that became abhorrent to you. That's not the gospel. That's the way it was preached. And I don't understand that, okay? But we have driven away so many people. And the clergy got to answer for it, I think. We do. We the preachers, we're the ones in the pulpit. We got to answer for how we have driven away so many people. What I think is not the austerity and the dry and the seriousness of the teaching of the church, but I wonder if what is missing is the heart of compassion. But we didn't reach out and touch their lives in a compassionate and helpful way. I don't know. All I know is we have lost so many of our generation. And of course, the spin-off is their children and grandchildren. But here's the question that comes to my mind. For whatever disdain one would have for the church, the clergy, or whatever, the one thing that the church can't get rid of by way of its own scandalous behavior, I'm thinking of the clergy, including myself, is the hope of immortality. The hope that death isn't final, that evil isn't triumphant, that in the end we believe in a final restoration of life and justice and goodness. That's a powerful hope in the realities of this world of ours. That in the end, there is a right order of things. There is an ultimate rightness that is personal. I got to say personal. It's not an equation. That each of us, the good in us will be triumphant over whatever is evil because of Christ. That death and evil will not be triumphant, but goodness, beauty, and life will triumph. I mean that. I sustain that hope. I hope it's a hope rooted in my faith. If I gave up my faith, I think I'm a good enough philosopher, not a good one, but good enough to know life has very little meaning once you get toward its termination and its end, because the good you do dies with your death. or it may live on a generation or two in your children. If you can take great pride in it, go ahead and ask your grandchildren what your name is, and I bet you buck against the donut. Many of them won't have to hesitate. And 4 generations from now wouldn't even know you existed, other than if you were wealthy enough or famous enough to make them heirs to your name. For most of us, can't even remember our grandparents. I only knew one grandparent, my mother's mother, and because she raised us. All the rest are just names now. I share their genetics, their genes, but I don't share their memory. Although when I'm in Italy, I have to say I always go to the cemetery to look at their names, because from them came me. And I want to remember. That's one of the beauties. It is the truth. It is the beauty of going to visit where you came from. When I'm home in New Haven, I always go to the cemetery to visit my family. Not only my mom and dad, but my aunts and my uncles, my cousin Harry, as much as I can. But especially my mom and dad. They're dead a long time. A long, long time. But I remember with affection and gratitude and honor. But I also visit them. See? I remember them more vividly now than I ever did before. Maybe I'm not as busy about life, and I remember more. But I remember with hope. As I grieve, and I feel it right now. I wouldn't be saying this stuff. But I grieve that I will be with my family again. That's what I told you that before. One of my colleagues said, when I think of heaven, what do you think about? I said, being with my family again. And my friends, my Junie, the people I have loved and been loved by. What else is heaven but being with them in Christ together forevermore? That's really a neat line, forevermore, more and more and more forever. Isn't that neat? It's living and living together again. I want to see my family again. I want to see those I have loved and been loved by. My Frankie Coppolas, Marie Coppola, my cousins, my aunts and uncles. And I want to see those from whom I came but didn't know, my grandparents in Italy, my great-grandparents, those who impacted my family, my father's life, my mother's life, and now impact mine. See? Indirectly, but substantially, not only genetically, but through the character of my family home. They didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of the story of the Vitalis. You see, the Marchettis, the Vitalis, yeah. It's a neat story, isn't it? We believe with hope, and the hope gives us life. It gives us meaning. So even in the quietness of Holy Saturday, is the quietness that is post after Good Friday, but with an eye to Easter Sunday, when the whole reality is manifest. Christ rises in glory wounded. He never loses wounds, never loses them. That neat. And St. Thomas is a smart cookie. And Apostle Thomas, he says, if I don't see the wounds, I don't believe. Here they are, pal. Take a good look. Put your hand in my side. You see? Thomas was sharp. He wanted to see the continuity, the redemptive continuity in the life and death of Christ and his resurrection. I do too. I want to see my family. I want to be with my friends, all whom I have loved and been loved by, in Christ forevermore. That's the truth. In my old age now, my 80s, it becomes more vividly real to me. Is that some of you who are listening are my age, or a little younger than me maybe. My friends in Alaska. They watch this very faithfully, don't you? Huh? They yell at me if it's not on. They do. They'll text me and say, "Where are you?" We're looking for you. Ann, a gang there. Nancy and Ann and others. It's neat, isn't it? It's neat. They're visiting with me. It's neat. I remember them, and more than remember them, I'm with them in my heart and soul, my family, my friends, living and dead, with the hope that one day we'll all be together again. Isn't that neat hope? And I believe it. I hope for it, and I trust it.